All right, peeps, here we go. Page 344, adaptation strategies. This one shouldn't really take too long. We're actually on this way over here. Yeah. Like adaptation strategies right there in the book. Yep. All right. So, adaptation strategies. Basically, they're looking to reduce the bad effects, but maximize on the good effects. Like, hey, just because we got climate change doesn't mean we can't grow some awesome new food in some areas that previously we couldn't. Um, a lot of this comes from one of the terms they bring up is adaptive capacity. And that's just the will and the ability of a country, corporation, people, to basically change. Um, Here in the United States, we have a lot of the technology to change. Some of us have like the will to change. Some of us see the need to it. Others don't. And just how stuck we are in our ways and our culture of it, and the economy. We're a very well off economy. So, like, we have more of a financial ability to change. Poorer countries tend not to. When you are just barely surviving or not even surviving, um, change to help out the world doesn't come second to change to helping out yourself. So one of the things they bring up is MEDCs have more ability than LEDCs for this adaptive capacity, basically to change. And this brings up who pays for this because you can't expect poor countries to really pay to change. Conversely, too, they have some of the biggest effect on our climate change because when you're looking at burning down your forest to make more farmland so you can sell more food, a lot of countries go for that. So, just in situations like that, so a lot of our MEDCs, which are like your prosperous, well-off countries, have we're all affected by climate change. So basically, MEDCs are kind of on picking up the bill for the LEDCs. Um, and that comes with anything. It's just like, hey, if your parents pay your car insurance or they pay for your car, they get to tell you that that car better be in the driveway at 9 o'clock at night. All right. They got to tell you that they get to take it away if your grades aren't good or is to a certain level, stuff like that, because they're the ones with the money. They're the ones so they're the whole ones who say what can go. Sorry, people. All right. Um, some different changes. Change land use legally. You can do this with legislation. You can start putting in that you can't build on swampland. You can put in that you can't build on floodplains, areas that are going to be affected by climate change within the next few years. Because you're like, why build on a beach house when that beach level is going to rise and your house is going to be underwater in 50 years? You can also build to resist flooding. Agriculture, you can irrigate more efficiently instead of having a sprinkler out there going and just spraying water all over the place and evaporating. One of the things you can do is you can actually bury pipelines underground and then just have it like drip out to the plants, so they none of that water gets evaporated. It goes straight into the soil and straight to the plants. This is actually what they do quite a bit in Israel. And then um, Israel bought a lot of land in south of Puerto Rico where it used to be sugarcane. But because sugarcane don't really pay anymore to grow, a lot of farmers just let their farms just kind of go away and put it up for sale. So income the Israelis, sorry, and they're like, hey, look, we'll pay you like some good money for this farmland you ain't using. And the farmland was cheap. So they were like, yeah, sell it. Awesome. And then Israel comes in, plants mangrove trees, and then just feeds the water to them underground. And they are selling mangoes for $2 at Whole Foods here in West Hartford. So they're making some pretty good bank on that. Store rainwater. This one's controversial. In Colorado, when the rainwater comes down, it is legally part of the state. even if it falls on your roof. So you having a rain barrel is illegal in Colorado. Um, Other areas, like in California, um, I read an article recently about this one farmer that had a grow operation for medical marijuana, and he had, I think, something out of code for too many plants or something. But that's not what nailed him. What nailed him was that he was taking water out of the river. So that's what they really fined him for. Um, so storing rainwater, you want a lot of farm properties right now. They want to make sure that you've got an irrigation pond because that way you store your own water for irrigation. You don't have to pay for any of it. You want to start planting drought tolerant crops. Why? Because if the climate's going to be a lot more drier, well, you need to have crops that don't take as much water. Also, start to grow diverse crops. If all you do is grow one type of crop on a field, A, it'll suck out the nutrients of that crop. But B, if you get like an insect invasive species that comes in, it will literally wipe out your whole crop and you will make no gosh dang money. So it's the old adage, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So you got to have it spread out. Like you might grow a little bit of tobacco, you might grow a little bit of corn if you're here in Connecticut. You might grow some hay because you can sell that off to um, dairy farms, also horse farms too. So just that managing weather, seeding clouds. This is kind of like weird spacey stuff, but they can basically fly an airplane into clouds, and I forget what the chemical is, but they can drop little pellets of it into the cloud, and what it does, it's the moisture forms around those pellets, and then it starts to rain. So it basically forces the clouds to rain. That's what they call seed clouds or seeding clouds. Um, Population areas that can withstand. Why? Because if you start looking at Florida, at what that land, how many people it can hold, it is pretty much maxed out just with water supplies, the actual amount of land, what you do with the waste, um, like toilet waste and stuff. It's not, they don't have a lot of more room for people. Same thing with Arizona. You're looking at all these reservoirs out there and they are just drying up. Why? Because the desert is not a place for a lot of human beings to be living. It just cannot support it at all. Um, Same thing when you start looking for plants and animals. Like they tried, having dairy cows off in Africa, and they found that the dairy cows destroyed the land. They had, the land can't really hold too many dairy cows, so the land became pretty junk. Um, Conversely, they then converted it to, a game preserve and just let people go in there and hunt. So, they did adapt. Vaccinate against waterborne diseases is a big one. Water supplies, desalination plants. Problem with desalination plants is they actually take energy, which comes from fossil fuels and power, and that also makes the water expensive. If you are on a small island, these desalination plants basically take the salt water from the ocean, spit out the salt, or actually probably sell it as sea salt, and then the water is now fresh, and they sell it to the people. The problem is, it takes money. All right, it ain't like water that's coming from your reservoir and my reservoir, which does not have salt in it. Um, Looking to increase reservoirs as well. The problem is this takes land to do that, and a lot of our land is currently used. So, up in there's a reservoir up in Massachusetts that's huge. It's called Quabbin. There used to be an Enfield, Massachusetts, a town in Enfield called Massachusetts. But what Massachusetts did is they came in. They're like, all you people in Enfield, move it out, move it along, get out of here. And they basically built a dam and they flooded it. And the whole town of Enfield, Massachusetts is underwater now. Doesn't exist. When you're driving a boat on Quabbin, you can actually look down and see some of the houses. It's kind of weird. you can use runoff more effectively. If you've ever seen terraced, let's see if we can go here. Terraced farming. This is using runoff more responsibly. So as the water from this level goes down to this level, which then goes down to this level, which then goes down to this level, which then goes down to this level, this level, this level. This is a way of doing farming on hills, and you just using your land a little bit better. It's an old school way of doing it. It works. Um, so that's one way of using runoff more effectively. Also, too, you got to be careful of runoff with chemicals. In Vermont, when they use cow poop as fertilizer, and you're only allowed to put it on the fields, I believe, after the thaw, because, like, basically, if you put it in the fall, then the winter comes, and then when it all melts, it just washes all that cow poop right off into the river, which has tons of nitrates, nitrites, and then it just runs it out to the river, runs it off to the ocean, which is algae blooms and all sorts of problems. So, one thing you're going to have to do is look at the timeline agreement on pages 345 and 346 and complete these timeline notes. They look something like this. It starts right here at 1979 and goes all the way until 2014. So, yep, that's what we're looking to do, peeps. Thanks and good luck.